Now let's talk about what the other disaster that's unfolding in the country. Floods, water everywhere. We talked about this in the newspaper review. What's happening in Nyanza, what's happening in parts of Busia County, Budalangi in particular, what is happening even in other parts of the country. In Nakuru, people have been affected by floods. In Tana River, in Wajir and Garissa, people have been affected by floods. Floods are basically just everywhere. Yesterday, the 5 CSs were like going to the Met Department, and then they addressed us from there. Went to the Met Department and they addressed us from there. The CS for Interior, Fred Matiang'i, CS for Energy, Keter, for Devolution, Wamalwa, for Water, Sicily, and ICT and Communication. So they were there. They told us, this is what the government is doing. We have seen now that Wamalwa, the CS for Devolution and ASAL, is starting to distribute relief food to the affected areas. The Interior and Coordination of Government is saying we are using our local national government officers to tell people, to advise people to move. And when they refuse to move, we are warning them that we're going to evict them by force. There's a humanitarian crisis not unfolding. It's already here with us. Very many families are not sleeping at home. Very many families are not sleeping on dry land. Very many children are not on dry land. And very many, of course, then it means that they are not eating. They don't have water, potable water. What is happening around the country? That's what we're discussing today, from now until 10 a.m.
There's a mess unfolding, and unfortunately, the real situation doesn't get to us in terms of the details of what's actually going on. We saw some horrific pictures yesterday of people living along the banks, living in makeshift structures along the banks of a river that clearly was too much, and it's what submerged their homes. I just try to imagine for a moment what people having to go through living in these makeshift structures, and what would be your door in this case is a river. And inside there now you're having to live cramped with members of your family. The amount of what we're dealing with now in terms of disease, whether it's waterborne, whether it comes out of because of living in a claustrophobic space, whatever it is not good. And it's not that it's happening to 1 or 2 or 3 people, it's happening to thousands of people.
It's an entire community.
It's entire communities in this case.
You're talking about a certain village. Everybody in that village is affected. So you can't say that there's anybody who can help others. Everybody is affected. This is, and it's not just, small amounts of water. It's not a few millimeters of water. It's still raining.
And it's still coming.
It's still coming. You're flooded out. You have nowhere to live. You have nowhere to sleep. You have no food to eat. The government is flagging off trucks from Nairobi today, expecting those trucks to get to you, and then the whole logistics of distribution of the food arriving. It's a very unfortunate thing and messy.
And on top of that, we look at, I'm just looking at the standard, the aftermath, where last week we had landslides, mudslides in Kerio, in the Elgeyo Marakwet area. And now they are seeing the earth cracking. That's uphill. So what are we going to see downhill on this other side?
Yeah.
So the aftermath, yes, there is a human cost, but now there's something happening to our environment. Is this another potential for another landslide?
Landslide, yes.
Because if it cracks, it can fall anytime and it can fall anywhere.
Well, we did see that there was an earthquake over the weekend, 4.9 on the Richter scale. Yeah. So, the earth is already shifting in this region. And so this was Kenya, Ethiopia, and then moving on to this other side, Rwanda, right? So that actually happened. We wouldn't feel it. But unfortunately, now we start to see the effects.
Start to see this.
Because then you see a road that is erupting, for example, and in that particular area where there was not necessarily any rain, the earth is shifting. It's moving. Now, when there is rain, you can imagine now how much worse it even gets, because then any holes that are created as a result of the shift are then now filled with water, and then that creates a very huge problem. So we're dealing with many things at the same time, unfortunately.
And even when we are flagging off relief food via trucks to go to these areas. We know some areas have been completely cut off
Yep.
because the bridges have either been flooded or the bridges have split into two quite literally, so the roads have been cut off.
Yeah.
We're seeing the earth cracking, so it means some areas will be impassable. So is distributing food via the trucks a good idea at this point? I mean, it's government.
I would imagine
Can
that
we
maybe
put
what
it
they're
in
doing
choppers?
is use their trucks because it will carry bulk up to a point where then you can use other means to airlift closer, like last mile. So chopper will come and now, because chopper will not carry what a truck will be able to carry in
no,
one trip,
definitely
right?
not.
So use the trucks, bring to a certain warehouse, then from there now start using chopper to airlift to specific communities, wherever they are. Maybe, just assuming that this is what the government is
Hopefully that's
thinking.
what is in
I'm
the
just
table.
hoping
It
that
would
this
be
is what
nice that that's what actually was being thought of. It would be
Let's
great.
go to the ground in Budalangi and start speaking to the community. John Mondo is a senior broadcast journalist. He's in Budalangi. He's been there. He's witnessing exactly what's happening. And now he joins us on the line. Good morning, John.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for speaking to us this morning. And we first of all have to tell you, poleni sana for what's happening in Budalangi.
Yeah.
Good morning, John.
Morning.
Good morning, Mondo.
Good morning to you.
Yes.
So, John,
Yes.
a number of people, we are seeing images of a number of people who've been affected by this, people who've been displaced by floods, people who have, are now living in makeshift camps, children who
Yes.
cannot even imagine playing, not even, schools are closed, but even playing, it's difficult for children. Just paint us a picture of what you see on the ground.
Indeed, the situation here is worrying. As you understand, almost over half of Budalangi is submerged in the waters,
Mm.
and homes, schools, even churches are in the water, and people have lost their property. Nothing is happening down there, but it's very unfortunate that some people have refused to move to higher grounds, and the issue they are claiming is that they lose their property when they move to higher grounds. And to say the truth is, from the locals themselves, they say such a situation happened last in 1961.
Yep.
They have not experienced harsh flooding for quite some time, though they had some flooding in 2011, but was not of such magnitude.
Wow.
Currently, the government is trying to do the evacuation, but accessing some of, as you mentioned earlier, accessing some of the areas is a bit tricky. So they have to use boats. From the Sigiri Bridge, they use boats going down the area. And like 2 days ago, there's one of the boats which was rescuing people has captured around 6 people.
Wow.
Gosh.
It was just good that it was around the bridge, and all the 6 were rescued.
Mm-hmm.
So the situation is not good, and what these people really need, as per now, is food. They don't have, even those ones who are in the makeshift tents, they don't have mosquito nets.
Yeah.
I happened to talk to some of the mamas down, and they were complaining of having signs of malaria. There's no treatment. I think the county government, which is in charge of health, is not doing enough. They are lacking toilets. They are requesting to be assisted with at least mobile toilets.
Yeah.
Because as you understand, most of our schools, they don't have good infrastructure per se. So you are getting so many families in these schools, and the laboratories are not enough.
They're not enough.
Yeah. The other thing that is coming up is security.
Mm-hmm.
We happen to talk to some of these people, and they cannot move, or even if they go to those camps, they have been going to camps for many years. But if they go to camps, we always have people who take advantage to steal their properties.
Wow.
And indeed, even when 2 days ago, when you were going to rescue some people along the dikes, surprisingly, somebody during the day just breaks into somebody's house.
So people are
When you
vacating their homes to go to camps, and somebody now turns around and goes to rob from those homes.
Yes.
John, you've said something that's very interesting. Having talked to people who are used to going to camps, that means this is not the first time this has happened. Every time
Yes,
there's flooding in the area, they're used to going to camps for a certain time. When the water disappears or when the rain stops, then they're also used to going back home. So it becomes kind of like a cycle, a way of life.
It's a cycle.
Do you think that those who could do something about this are also in that state of mind? Because you say the government needs to do a lot more, that they need help here and there. Could it be that it's a way of thinking now that it's here, but it's going to disappear, and we'll just get along with life?
The truth is that even if it disappears, it's not now. Because the water is everywhere. And put in mind that this kind of flooding is unique. Because, like for Budalangi, people started moving away from their homes around in December. Due to Budalangi, they're getting 2 cases of flooding. One, there's this water from River Nzoia, where water from all along from Mount Elgo, Nyala is pouring down to Budalangi due to the heavy rains. And then by December, we had backflow of the lake.
Yeah.
The lake has moved several kilometers from where it has been for years. So all this water, it's not something we can say that even the next 1 or 2 months, life will go on.
It's going to take a while to drain.
So this is unique in the way things are happening right now. The levels that we are seeing are unprecedented, not happened before like this.
Since 1961.
Since 1961, right?
Yes.
So it can't be then business as usual, whereby we wait for the water to fade and then we go back to every factory settings.
Cannot be.
So, John, you mentioned something about refusal of the people to move.
Yes.
So when they refuse to move, how are they living? Are you saying that they're living in their submerged houses?
No. Well, we have some few areas along the dikes where they have put some makeshift tents, and it's too pathetic because when you go there, the way they are living, the kids, in fact, children are suffering more. But I'm very happy with the government directive yesterday that has directed all county commissioners to ensure that all people affected with water are forcefully evacuated. At least that directive will help.
Mondo, why do you think people, they're seeing the situation around them, they're seeing that things are bad, why do you think they would refuse to move? I mean, even if they say they fear that their property will be lost, if they continue staying there anyway, even their lives will be lost because the floods are about to just go with the property anyway. So why would they not see that?
One thing I come to realize is that these people have been moving during such calamities.
Yeah.
And another issue they have mentioned is that whenever they are moved to higher grounds, after the flooding, nobody cares to help them transport their properties back to their homes.
Okay.
Because they are afraid, they are saying, if you are moving to higher grounds, what next after this flood? Because we have been moving after the floods. You start looking for your own funds to move your properties to your home.
So it's a past experience, past treatment by the government. Been there, done that. They are basically saying, come on. This whole story you're telling us, we've heard it before. We obeyed your instructions previously, and you did not support us.
Yes. A second thing, according to my analysis, it's politics.
Okay.
When you look at Budalangi, we have camps. One of former MP Ababu Namwamba and the current MP Raphael Wanjala. So you got some areas and people are telling you, nyinyi mnataka kutuchukua tu hapa kisiasa, mwende mtutese, ingekuwa wakati wa Wanjala. Even if you look at social media, people have politicized this flooding. Some are saying, during Ababu's time there was no flooding of such amount. What have you? So they go down even to the locals, telling them not to move, mtaenda kuteswa, such like things. So they have also politicized this calamity, and everything is just in a mess.
John Mondo is a senior broadcast journalist in Budalangi. He's giving us the lowdown of what's happening in Budalangi. You were telling us about why you see and you think people are refusing to move to higher ground. Evacuation being ordered by government, and people are still reluctant to move to higher ground. One of the reasons you're saying is previous experience with moving from where they are to higher ground, and after the rain, after the issue subsides, the government does not offer them any assistance in going back to their homes. Second issue, and this is a bit now worrying, is the politicization of the evacuation. Those two camps that have emerged, the current MP and the former MP. Ababu Namwamba is a former MP, current MP, Raphael Wanjala. So supporters of Raphael Wanjala are saying one thing, and the supporters of Ababu Namwamba are saying another thing. What are the two politicians saying?
You know, I happened to move with Raphael Wanjala to some of the areas, the affected areas. But in some areas, you find the victims are telling him off that, you see, this is what was not there during, we never experienced such during Babu's time.
Yep.
But they forget that this is a natural calamity. It's not something that has been brought about by a politician. When you look at the issue of the dikes, I remember at one time government launched a 5 billion World Bank project to do permanent dikes that could have helped to control water. But just because of politics, some people never gave up their land for compensation so that the project can kick off.
So what happened to the project?
Everything, it's stored up to now. It's already 2 years late. Nothing has moved despite the World Bank releasing the money.
But the government has powers to use compulsory acquisition of land. We have seen it happen, SGR, we've seen it happen in roads. How would it be impossible for people to be compensated, compulsorily compensated for this particular piece of land?
The other day I was with CS Devolution, who was then CS Water.
Yes.
Who was the delegate was under. And I asked him the same question. And he said, you know, these guys are the owners of the land, and we're just appealing them to work out immediately so that the project immediately after the flooding, the project can start.
So it sounds like Eugene Omalo was just lifting his hands in the air and saying, "Sasa unataka nifanye nini?"
So I think we are hoping that maybe after the flooding, people will be awakened. But this kind of the kind of magnitude of the flooding, and something will be done. And maybe there's something I forgot to mention. One of the biggest challenges the victims of flooding are facing. You know, for them, they're having what we can call a double tragedy. There is the corona pandemic, and there is the flooding. If you go to most of these camps, with the government directive of people putting on masks and just social distance, it's not there. And nobody has thought of it Nobody has thought of it that they can even supply masks. They can even think of
Putting them on.
Do the people seem concerned about the coronavirus?
some, but just on the smaller few. Few are concerned, but some are saying, what about corona?
We have bigger challenges.
Exactly, because if
Yeah.
if you're facing flood waters that may sweep you into oblivion, and a virus which is not visible at all, and so far the hotspots is Nairobi and Mombasa, and you're in Budalangi, really, you'll be more concerned about your immediate threat.
Yeah.
In fact, they are telling us, your corona ni yenyu Nairobi.
They have a point.
It's
So far, so far they have a point.
The floods are likely to have an immediate threat by sweeping or literally washing everyone away. One. Two, the immediate effects of the flooding. You've talked about sanitation services being almost non-existent. People are used to seeking shelter in schools, in churches, which are submerged. And those particular places, they use latrines. So you can imagine that everything is now out there. So you're looking at cholera and other diarrheal diseases, which is a big threat to children. The other one is malaria. The threat of malaria is real for these particular people. Our healthcare service is accessible. So even if I was in that particular situation, I would be more worried about those things because they are the immediate effect. They're the thing that I can see. And then lastly is food and availability of nutrition for children, for everyone who's been displaced. So they're rightly so. And if those concerns are not addressed, then this coronavirus, which you have a 98% chance of fighting it, then you're going to take a gamble.
And they're indeed gambling.
And they are. John, what's happening in terms of offering assistance to the community, both from government and non-government organizations? So you've told us the kind of dire situation they're in. They need temporary shelter. These are tents. Who's supplying the tents? Who is supplying food and water? Who's supplying mosquito nets? Anyone who's working in those communities, and how are they organized?
At least food, they're getting food rations from the government. Ministry of Devolution has been providing them food. The other day, we saw some of officials from the county government. I'm told the MCAs came together and contributed some money.
Okay.
So they were distributing some unga. Issues of mosquito nets, nobody has thought about it.
So in terms of plans, because like you said earlier, John, this is not something that's going to go away tomorrow. We still have their entire villages, entire towns are submerged, and to understand submerged, someone's entire house is underwater, right?
Yeah.
So this thing of a few mosquito nets here and there, mobile toilets. Are there any plans, from what you understand, for some kind of permanency of solution, apart from what could be done to protect people in this prone area in the future, now with their needs, because they need this kind of relief for the next month at least, before we see an abate in the rains? Is there any plan? Is there any talk of anything like this?
The government, the area MP, Wanjala, and a team of emergency response committee, they have been meeting, and I think they're putting, the last time they met was yesterday, and I've not received more details of their meeting, but I haven't talked to the county commissioner. He says things are put in place. But though my biggest worry is this. In case we go to an extent, maybe the schools reopen, let's assume is in July or late June.
Yeah.
Most of these people are in schools that are on the higher ground. Where will they go?
Yeah. Basically, what you're saying is schools will not be able to resume because people will not move out of those shelters.
Yeah, people will not move out.
Well, I mean, yeah, we had the landslides, the major landslides that we saw, for example, in West Pokot last year,
Yes.
and we have camps that are still in schools till today. So you can imagine if this area that we're looking at, where schools have been made into makeshift or temporary camps, it's going to take us well into the next few months.
Nobody's going to move.
Nobody's going to move.
So in terms of a structure, is there a community structure that's working with the government? For instance, elders or committees for the various camps that have a direct line with a response committee from the county. First of all, is there a response committee in the county, like county commissioner? You talked about the area MP having some meetings yesterday. Is there a properly created structure that everybody knows that, for example, the way we know in terms of fighting COVID, Mutahi Kagwe is the chair of a national emergency response committee. Do we have a similar structure in Budalangi addressing this crisis?
Yeah, specifically for Budalangi sub-county, there is a committee chaired by the DCC, Deputy County Commissioner.
Okay.
And in that committee, we have representatives of the constituency office, that is the MPs, the MP. We have chiefs, assistant chiefs. And then when you go down to the camps, we have every camp has a chairperson.
Okay.
Yes.
So these are the ones that come up. For example, I'm imagining that the chairman of the camps is going to speak to his community or her community, and they know these are our immediate needs. For instance, the way you're talking about, we need extra toilets, or we need mosquito nets, we need more food, or these kind of nutritional needs for our younger children. Then they are able to pass this information up that goes all the way to the committee. Is this happening?
It's happening. It's one thing to speak about it, and it's another thing to implement.
Yes.
Of course, they have been raising those issues. Even they raised when CS Devolution visited. We visited around 3 camps, and their chairpersons raised those queries. They raised concern of what they need to be done. Same to when we went around with the area MP. Even the area MP himself has given more of a proposal to the national government what needs to be done.
Yeah.
As well as county government.
But now, in terms of getting it done, is where the problem comes in.
Yes, implementation.
Which is usually the problem with our government. You have
With
very
the government.
nice plans on anything and everything. Even the choppers that we were talking about, probably it's somewhere on the plan. But when it gets to implementation or when it
come
goes
around
to action,
choppers.
then that does not
when
happen.
they come to visit, they come around in choppers. But then the food comes,
Choppers.
it'll come with Land Rovers and Land Cruisers, which get stuck in the mud.
and it takes
The other-
days to get to people who need it.
The other day I was making fun.
Yeah.
When the CS Devolution visited and the governor happened to come around, he comes with around 15 vehicles, pickup, double cabs, and I was like, all this fuel, why can't they convert it into food?
Yeah.
Exactly. And you need all of those people on the ground.
On the ground to do what?
do what?
It's not politics.
Yeah. But what I've heard you saying, John Mondo, is that people are receiving food rations, at least. Nobody is sleeping hungry.
There's food ration that is being given,
Okay.
and I know some of the people who are willing to come and help. I happened to talk with Ford Kenya party leader, Moses Wetangula. Most likely he will be doing his, he will be providing some foods. I know the Raila's team is also planning something. So we are putting it open for any other person who is able to help the people.
Right. So it doesn't just
we-
have to be the area
general-
leaders. Anybody who can come in and lend some help at this point clearly
Anybody
is welcome.
I think you should put a very strong caveat here, as long as you do not bring politics. Already, if politics is affecting movement of people, evacuation of people to higher grounds, you can imagine when Ford Kenya and ODM and all the others come bearing their political gifts
The political
and rhetoric.
mantra.
John Mondo, senior broadcast journalist in Budalangi, we thank you very much for speaking to us. Keep doing the good work and reaching out to the people and asking the hard questions on the ground.
Yes,
We'll get back.
Thanks so much,
we'll get in
John.
touch with you in coming days to hear what's happening.
okay, you're welcome.
Asante sana. This is the situation with Kenya's biggest conversation. We are still talking about floods and the effect of floods, especially in Budalangi. If you're anywhere in the Nyanza region where the lake has basically started backflowing and the rivers are full, please get in touch with us. 0719-012-600. We are talking about floods. This is a bigger crisis than even COVID-19. How many people have died of COVID-19 so far?
24 people of
24
COVID-19. Then here, which is very shocking, so far the flash floods have killed 194 people. In the last 48 hours, 30 people have died.
In 48 hours, more people have died from the effects of flooding than those that have
Exactly.
died from COVID-19
Exactly.
since mid-March.
Exactly.
And our focus is still, as a country, appearing to be the COVID-19. Well, it's also
Yeah,
as big,
it, yes, it's valid. But if I were in government, your COVID-19 hotspots, you know them.
Yep.
You're having measures on them. This, in my opinion, is another hotspot of another whole problem in itself.
And this is going
30
to take
people
long.
dying in 48 hours is 30 people too many.
Yeah.
Because these are lives that you could have done something about. We need not report about people dying.
This you could avoid.
Yeah.
This you could avoid.
You can.
When we see them
You
as
can.
ministers going to Met Department, it's because they recognize that the Met Department has a capacity to predict. And the Met Department has been issuing these warnings for long.
They told us in
They
January
keep
that this was going to
saying,
happen.
They
we're
keep
going to
saying-
have prolonged rainfall. You have likelihood of this happening, flash floods in these areas, landslides and mudslides in these particular areas. It's important that you get people to move to higher ground. Now, when the government comes and it's dealing the way it's been dealing with other issues with this particular crisis, just as here saying, you know what, these dams are full. We're going to have to release some water. And then people who live downstream will need to move. Hey, come on. You need to actually say, this is where we're going to put you up. This is
Yeah.
where you will stay. We are providing everything. Water, sanitation, food. Everything will be sorted here. And then once that subsides, we promise, and we will live by that promise, we will help you to relocate. Because at the same time, when these people are moving, they are leaving their houses. Those houses are going to be swept away by the floods. It's not that they're going to come back to find, oh, all right, so the house is still here waiting for me. No, they will need to go back and start reconstructing homes. This is not a support that just says move out. It's support that says let's walk this journey with you. And for people to actually buy into the issue of let's move, what John Mondo has just told us, the people in Budalangi are saying, I'm not willing to move. I've been moving every year. River Nzoia bursts its banks. We get flooded. We move to higher grounds. We suffer there in those camps for months. And then when time comes to move back home, we go back home. We find our homes were destroyed. Our land, our crops were destroyed. And the government is not assisting us in going back. Why do I want to do that again this year? It doesn't matter. Since 1961, I wasn't alive in 1961. I don't care. I'm talking about now. I was alive 2 years ago and the government did not support me. It's something that the government actually just needs to sit back and internalize the feedback from the people.
I think we come from a situation where we are not proactive. I mean, if we knew this thing since December, January, we could have done something about it.
Not
And
just December,
not December,
January.
January. This is an
September,
annual issue. This is something that
October,
happens every
we
year.
were talking about calling a national crisis and disaster in October, November last year because floods were ravaging the country.
Even
Met
then.
was saying this is unprecedented heavy rainfall and it's going to go on for long until mid next year. Met was telling us this.
We heard John tell us a few minutes ago that people, this is a way of life. This is a habit
Yep.
for them. They know that a certain time of the year it'll rain. They move, they come back. So it's now become habitual for them. Now, this is what I'm saying. A part of the country is prone to certain things, as is. Whether it's prone to landslides, whether it's prone to famine, whether it's prone to desertification, whether it's prone to flooding. We already know. And there are reasons why we use certain government machinery to set things in place. It is clear that in other countries, there are ways in which things are done. Look at the California wildfires. Look at the Australia wildfires, for example, which they know every year is going to happen. It's an annual event. So as the summer months come, it starts to get hotter and hotter. They start sending to people, not just talking amongst the government, but they start sending advisories to people. And they say at this point, we are asking that you begin to move. Now, not just move wherever you want to go, but governments have already put in place alternate housing where people can move to, so that even if your homes for example, get destroyed, there's insurance for rebuilding. There is even advice on what you're used on what real estate contractors are told to, the kind of material you should use to build particular houses, so that they're either fire resistant or so that the level of destruction is not as high. So those things are in government policy from the very beginning, because you're aware of where you live. The same thing can be done for landslides. Look at Rwanda, for example, that is a predominantly hilly country. And they know that they're also prone to landslides. They had the same thing that happened in West Pokot in December happen in Rwanda. But in August, it was a government policy, and they started to tell people, move. We need you to move. And they were housed by the government, over 600 families housed by the government for a period of time. Were they able to mitigate the destruction? Absolutely, because they planned ahead of time. It is possible for these things to be done. And I think we need to get into, they say it's never too late. We need to get into a way of thinking that allows us to plan for the future. But we can't do that unless there's deliberate focus or planning. It can't happen. We can't start thinking about the problem when the problem arrives. Then you're done. It has to, because in this case, nature has presented you with the schedule. Because it happens the same time every year. She has already told you, this is what I'm going to be doing. How about you prepare for it, right? I'm not going to stop. I will. We have technology that tells us what nature is planning to do. Why not use that technology? Why not use that expertise to be able to plan to mitigate such things? It shouldn't be that people in the country know, okay, come March, April, I'm going to have to move, but I'll be back. It shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way. There should be something we should be able to do. People should not have to start from scratch every year.
And these games, so you get money from the World Bank for construction of better dikes. And then the excuse here is that the people refused to move.
Not an excuse.
2.5 years later, the people refused to move, and there's nothing we can do about it. That's absolute
garbage.
Yes.
If you compare that with what happened with the construction of the SGR, I mean,
even what happens with the construction of roads. Basically, have a conversation with the people. Let them know this is what we are doing. So this is a compensation. If somebody somewhere is trying to inflate the cost or trying to, to hoodwink the people so that they can end up eating the money themselves, look, get rid of those people. People will understand. We want to put up the dike here. We need this particular piece of land, and then we will move you from here, and we can help you even relocate.
Now,
we can give you money and help you relocate.
In Kariobangi on Monday, and compare it to this. How is it that you're able to bring in Sani? What's his name?
Sani. There's a bulldozer,
right? The bulldozer, and you can move people's houses without a thought, because something else needs to happen, right? In this case, you need to save life. Move people. Put the dike up in a way in which it needs to be done. And then you're still pussyfooting around the air and having a conversation about maybe. No?
For me, it takes me back to my default. Government does not know how to serve people.
It doesn't.
It's not used to it.
0719-012-600. Our focus seems to be just in the western region, but that's not all. I mean, it's everywhere in the country, wherever you are. In Nyanza, we know that Lake Victoria is overflowing. And it's flowing, it has a backflow along the river. It has reclaimed a huge part of land. City Muga keeps telling us the lake is going back to where it used to be.
Its default settings.
John Mondo, the journalist from Budalangi, is telling us several kilometers of land has already been reclaimed by the lake. Several kilometers means that there are people whose homes were in those kilometers and they are now homeless. They don't even know where they're going to live for the next couple of months. They're living in makeshift camps. They have moved to schools that are in higher ground. In those areas, they are requiring support in terms of food, in terms of mosquito nets, in terms of sanitation. They're saying, well, we are just using these toilets in this school, but we are more than the school population on a normal day, so we need more toilets. They require all kind of assistance. The government is coming up with structures. Yeah. The government is coming up with plans. Yeah. The local MP is meeting with some people. The county commissioner is meeting with some people. The CS is flying in and flying out.
But what are all these meetings yielding at the end of the day?
Nothing.
Are we meeting so that we say we've met, we have discussed, and
Tick
then
a
hold
box.
a press conference, 5 CSs backed by all manner of people to just give declarations?
Yeah. Tick a box.
It's unfortunate because we are losing lives. We've displaced so many. We are risking the lives of those so many that we've displaced, and it's gonna just be another tragedy. And then we'll say, we're used to this happening, and then the cycle starts all over again, and it's tragic.
It's not good. I mean, where we are now, the painful part of all of this is that it can be done. It can be worked on. People have lived with nature for centuries. It's not a matter of we can't do anything about this particular issue. And to say that we needed money and we couldn't find the money, whereas we can find money for other things that, if in the light of it, are actually useless or not necessary. And when it comes to one life lost is one life too many. In the light of something that can be done when it comes to this flooding, it's a perennial issue. Perennial. Year after year after year, we see the same thing happening. And to get a solution, you can't give the same answer every year or the same excuse every year as to why something has not been done. It's either lack of funds or the initiation of politics or something else, for crying out loud. It has to be that people are vested in making sure that communities, societies continue to develop and thrive. That's what it's got to be.
Yeah.
After that, if you don't, over whom then are you ruling? Whom are you leading?
It doesn't matter to them. It doesn't matter whether there are people, whether there are no people. It doesn't really matter. They don't see that far. We asked John about leadership on the community level. Now, actually, let's speak to one of the community leaders in the area. Frederick Andera is joining us on the line. Good morning, Frederick.
Asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Hujambo?
Mzuri kabisa.
Thank you very much for speaking to us.
Naitwa Frederick Kandera. Kutoka Bunyala Sub-County.
Yes.
Bunyala Central Ward. Budalangi constituency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frederick, wewe ni kiongozi wa jamii hiyo hapo ambayo imeathirika na haya mafuriko.
Yeah.
Hebu tuambie hapo kwenu mko watu wangapi ambao wameathirika?
Hapa kwetu, in fact, Budalangi mzima imekuwa affected. Hizi 4 wards, but the most affected wards ni hizi sasa. Tuko na Budalangi imekata cross now to northern part and southern part. So on southern part imekuwa affected, ndio inaanzia Siamungu hadi Osieko. Imekuwa affected yote, more than 30,000 people.
So 30,000 people wamekuwa displaced basically.
Yeah, wamekuwa displaced.
Wanaishi wapi sasa?
Kuna wengine wamevuka ng'ambo ya northern part kule iko juu, so wamewekwa pale. Wengine wako Mundere University. Alafu wengine wamerenti tu hizo nyumba huko kando kando. Wengine wamepelekwa Samia, our neighboring constituency.
Na wale ambao wamebaki?
Wale ambao wamebaki wengine wamesonga mahali pamenuka kidogo, kama kuna maboma wengine ambao yako juu, maji yameyasurround tu. Lakini sasa wengine wamekuwa wako tu hapo. Alafu wengine wako kwa mashule, but mashule hiyo wako ndani, lakini maji huku nje ni maji tu.
So ndani ya classroom, wanaishi ndani ya classroom, lakini maji imejaa nje kwa compound.
Yes, ndani ya classroom, lakini nje kuna maji.
Na chakula wanapataje watu wote?
Sasa you see that is the problem, but chakula so yesterday jana government, national government na county government wameanza kuleta kusupply chakula kwa at least mchele. Jana tulireceive mchele na chakula hizo zingine mahindi. Yes.
How long is this going to last, Wandera? How long is this help going to last from what you're hearing?
Hii maji bado inakuja. Haina, hatujui itaisha lini, manake ndio sasa inakuja tu. Mpaka hii mvua iishe ndio sasa tuanze kuona hii itaisha lini. Lakini mpaka saa hii hatujajua because mvua bado inanyesha.
Na kama sasa kiongozi wa local community leader,
yes,
what kind of structure do you have in place in terms of at community level and working with the government, both county and national government?
Plan ambazo tuko nazo. Plan ambazo tuko nazo in fact ziko tu in place. Tuko na in fact hii dike tuko na contractor wala World Bank wanaendelea kuitengeneza, lakini sasa kwa sababu tu watu wengine wamechelewa kulipwa masamba ambao zilikuwa karibu na ziko karibu na dike zilikuwa kwamba walipwe ndio sasa watoke. So kuna watu wengine wamelipwa, wengine bado.
Kwa nini hawajalipwa?
Ni mambo tu unajua, sasa hawajalipwa kwa sababu mambo ya ni nani ana ownership ya land. Manake pengine babu yake alikufa na ndio alikuwa kwa parcel number, sasa wanataka wa change. Sasa hiyo kubadilisha inachukua time kidogo. Yes.
Kwa nini inachukua time? Na ni serikali tu ni ile moja mwenye aliandika ni hiyo serikali yenye nataka kununua shamba. Why would it take so long to just change?
Na unajua sasa pengine unajua watu pengine hawajasikilizana. Unajua serikali pia haitaki watu ambao pengine jamii ambayo familia ambayo imebaki hawataki kusikilizana upesi, so that hii mambo ikwishe. So hiyo ndio kitu kidogo inaleta serikali pia inachelewa. Yes.
Okay. Na Frederick, umesema watu wanaishi classroom, wako surrounded na maji. Kuna wengine ambao wameenda some raised ground but they are still surrounded by water. Mtu akikuwa mgonjwa ama akitaka kwenda kuhudumiwa mahali, kina mama ambao ni wajawazito, watoto ambao wanahitaji chanjo, nini inafanyika sasa wakitaka kutoka hapo kwenda kutafuta huduma za afya?
Sasa hapo ndio problem, but as for now viongozi mbunge na MCA wameweka mikakati ya maboti. Kuna maboti zinapita. So mtu kama huyu akipatikana wanamweka kwa boti, wanampeleka Port Victoria Hospital. Yes.
Na mahospitali hajakuwa submerged kwa maji kama vile tunaona mashule, maboma za watu.
Ile apoti hiyo iko juu, but hii ya Muhobola iko submerged. Hii maji iko tu ndani, hata madaktari huwa walirudi huko port. Hawako hapa. Yes.
Alafu Frederick, wakati mwingine tunaonanga sana Red Cross inahudumia watu. Sijui je kama pia wako uko kuhudumia watu ama kushughulikia watu ambao wanahitaji msaada, kama hata kuwapatia chakula ama kuwasaidia kufika mahospitalini? Mko na Red Cross on the ground?
Red Cross. In fact hii maji wakati ilipoanza ilianzia kule Mualo, mahali tunaita, ilianzia Mualo, wale ambao wako karibu na lake. Unajua tumekuwa na backflow ya maji ikirudi huko kutoka kwa lake. So hapo Red Cross waliingia. Lakini aspanao kwa wengine pengine kama atakuja kesho ama leo. Mpaka saa hii pande hii hatujaona Red Cross, lakini upande ile nyingine walianza nao wale wa kwanza. But watu ni wengi hata mpaka wajipange.
Na serikali ya county nayo?
Serikali ya county hata jana wametuletea unga ya ngano, ziko ndio watu sasa wanaenda kupeana. Serikali ya county wameanza kuleta pia kitu kidogo.
Lakini nazo hema, those who are living in tents wanapata
Yes.
wanapata wapi hema?
Kupata?
Tents.
Halo?
Watu wanatoa wapi tent?
Tunaona watu wanaishi kwa hema.
Sasa problem ni tent hizo. Tent sasa wao wengine wanakomboa kwa wala mbali kwako, mtu akiwa na mbili alikuwako na mbili, pengine especially watu walikuwa NIB walikuwa amenunua wako tent zile ambao anatumia kwa mchele. Najua pande wa ward ya Central Ward tuko na NIB, National Irrigation Scheme ya kulima mchele. So hizo tent kuna wakulima walikuanga nazo wakitumia. Na yule ambaye hana tent anahangaika tu. Sasa hiyo ndio problem ya kupata hizo sapling. Sapling hakuna.
Okay, Frederick, this is something that happens every year. Even you,
Yes.
you've been a victim.
Yes.
Every year this thing happens.
Yes.
What do you think the solution is to this flooding problem and everything that comes with it?
The solution ni kujenga tu permanent nini? Ni kujenga permanent dike. Vile walikuwa wameanza. That is the solution. Na vile nimekuambia ni hali tu ya kwanza ya kulipa nini? Ya kulipa hawa ambao anataka watoke kwa maboma yao. Hiyo tu, lakini solution ni kujenga permanent dike. That is the solution.
That's the solution.
Frederick Andera,
Now,
thank you very much. Thank you very
Yes.
much for speaking to us, Frederick.
Yes, sir.
Tutakupigia tena ndio tujue mambo yanavyoendelea huko.
Yeah.
Asante sana.
Asante.
Asante.
The conversation on flooding is our today's conversation. We spoke to John Mondo, a broadcast journalist in the area. We spoke to a community leader, Frederick Andera, who was telling us how the situation is basically. People are affected. Very many, tens of thousands of people are affected. They are living in makeshift camps. They are staying in schools. So even those that are in schools, basically you're in a classroom that is not flooded, but you cannot even step outside.
Remember, Frederick said they have boats.
They have boats to cross over from.
Remember, this was land before where children are playing, running all over the place. But now, for you to move from one place to the other, and you need a boat. You can just imagine how that has just changed people's ways of life.
It's difficult. And the pictures that you keep seeing coming out of Budalangi, and you're seeing so many tents, those tents are people's tents. People who, because of rice and all, they got some tarpaulins that they used to dry their crop on. Now they're using those as a shelter.
Yeah, you just prop it up with something to just cover you from the rain, not really from the cold.
And this is what brings in the issue of the basic needs. If the government is not sorting out that one first basic of shelter, and then we hear yesterday is when the county government started coming to distribute rice, and the national government brought in some grain. Water, sanitation are still a challenge.
Let's look at some good news still related to this disaster that's not COVID. And this is from Kapenguria through Red Cross. And with the West Pokot County, Kapenguria had, West Pokot had landslide effects in September. So in February of this year, the government plus Red Cross and other well-wishers, I've seen UNFPA on the list, came together to rebuild homes for families. And so they were handed over to the families yesterday, rebuilt homes in West Pokot. They were given mattresses and what they call dignity kits from UNFPA, just to have them start life all over again. And in one of the places you could see there's a lady holding a baby, her mattress, a blanket. Her house is well rebuilt. It has a roof, iron sheet roof, with a gutter. So I think there is hope when people come together for good. There's hope.
There is.
Yeah.
And we should never give up on hope. There are organizations that are working in the communities. For example, there's an organization called DSW, this German Foundation for World Population, that's working in Busia County, specifically in Budalangi. And now we are going to cross over shortly to speak to one of the officers. She's a gender officer with DSW, with Winfred Nkatha. When we see all these things of, floods and people moving and people being relocated and being rehoused, there are some things that we forget. The other softer side or the underbelly of our community. And I think it's important that we start having that conversation as well. Winfred, thank you very much for speaking to us, and good morning.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good
Winnie.
morning, Winfred.
Morning to you.
So first, give us a bit of a background of what your organization does and what it's doing in Budalangi.
Okay, my name is Winnie Nkada.
Yes.
I work with DSW. DSW in Kenyan terms is German Foundation for World Population.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we mostly work with the youth in ensuring that their demand and access for health is met, and mostly on sexual and reproductive health. So in Budalangi, we have a project that is under sexual and gender-based violence, and we work along the beaches mostly of Bunyala West. And our major objective is basically to ensure a conducive environment for everyone at the fishing community, that they are able to enjoy their rights, they are able to fish, no matter if they are women or men, they are able to enjoy a free environment, free from violence. Yeah, and our project is like a pilot project that is to run for a number of months, that is like 19 months. And we hope that by then we will be able to have cases of violence reduced along the beaches in Budalangi.
Okay. With what is going on right now, Winnie, do you see that there would, I mean, because now, as it was ordinarily, there were heightened levels of, of violence and other vices that, you're definitely trying to fight. Do you see that there will be an increase of this with what we see now? Because people are living in a fractured state of affairs right now. Will there be an increase, or how does this work continue, or is it hold on till further notice kind of status?
Yeah, of course, there is totally a change of the entire way of life, how people are living. And especially in Budalangi at the moment, we are facing two calamities. We have the floods. So we are distancing from the floods at the same time also from COVID-19. And this we see it as a major crisis for us as an organization that we have to deal with, and especially on the sexual and reproductive health. Such crises have a major impact on women and girls. And we are looking forward to a place where we will have more cases of the women and girls are vulnerable and to mostly sexual violence and exploitation. Also, at such periods, the women might not be in a position to access the basic services that they do, like the family planning services. Also, they are more at risk of getting HIV within the camps. And they need interventions that can move them forward during this period, because there is total change of life. Like I had an interaction with some leaders in the community, and you see everyone is looking for some safety or a shelter. That is what matters most in times of crisis. So like for the young girls that we deal with, most of them want a place that they can be secure instead of being held in like a class. The camps are like classes, schools, and such places. So instead of being held in such places, they are also looking for maybe a person who can host them. So if they get maybe a man who can host them, they are vulnerable to take up because it's a better shelter for them. So in such times, we take it as a risk environment for the women and for the girls. That is why we are not left behind in ensuring that we are with them during this crisis.
With the example that you've just given of the vulnerability and the possibility of exploitation of young girls in seek of a better shelter, have you dealt with any cases of that where you've had to intervene on behalf of some girls?
we are now currently receiving cases like that is a case that was shared, and we are putting measures on doing community sensitization and on ways that we can maybe interact with the community better at the camps to know of such cases, because also we are also observing the COVID-19 directive of we cannot do the meetings, the mini people meetings in the community, but we are free to receive such cases, and when we receive them, we will make sure that we are up to act on them.
What would you do? Provide alternative shelter? What kind of intervention would DSW put in place practically
for such cases of the girls?
Yeah.
Oh, DSW, we work with different stakeholders like the government, like the hospitals, and like the police. In such cases, we know that SBDV is a crime, and taking advantage of a crisis like those for older men, maybe to take advantage of the young girls who are vulnerable and are seeking for refuge in such times of a crisis, is also a crime. So we are working with different law enforcement agencies like the police to ensure that people, that those young girls are kept safe at the camps, and also that in such cases, in case of people who have taken away the girls, because it's something that even happens when there's no crisis. We've had cases of fish for sex along the beaches where girls are they are subjected to environments where they exchange fish for sex. So it's something that we deal with continually, and in case we get such cases, we support the girls. We have places, we have a program that we are doing empowerment to the girls so that they can, it is mostly based on vulnerability and more so on poverty. If we can support that girl to do something else that can sustain her instead of seeking refuge from a man who maybe will at the end of the day end up not taking her in. If we can support that girl to be financially stable or to get a skill that can be of help to her in future, I think that will be a sustainable intervention from our side. So we are offering skills for the girls. And also after we've offered skills, we will be also in a position to support some of the girls with business startup kits that maybe they can be more independent. And in such crisis, they're able to look up on themselves and they don't have to seek refuge from people around.
Okay, Winnie, sorting out the girls' issues is actually quite commendable because it addresses one side of the problem. Are there any programs or any interventions specifically targeting the men so that they don't prey on these young girls?
Yeah, we cannot actually deal with the problem without addressing the key people that we might term them as the perpetrators of the act. So we also deal with men. We've come up with some gender champions also who are men, and mostly being a fishing community who are fishermen who are able to talk about issues of gender violence within the community. And we also use them in our community sensitizations to teach the community on the importance of upholding the rights of women and girls, and why they should refrain from such acts of violence within the community. So we've engaged men in our programs. We've not left them behind because we see them as key in ensuring that our project moves forward. Yeah.
Do you see that this might create gaps in the life of the project, the floods that we see right now? Do you see that things may stop or will not get to the point that you would like them to because of the floods?
The floods might have an impact because as we talk now, most of the families have shifted from our area of operation to different areas. So even reaching out to them could be an issue in days to come until maybe when the floods are come to an end. So it could have a problem in our project, but we look forward also to dealing with the problem as it comes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Are there specific interventions that you're running now during this COVID-19? We know that people are suffering, people are out in camps. You've told us about the cases that you're collecting now in terms of receiving feedback. But is there anything that you're proactively doing to assist the community?
Yeah, we have an active gender desk that is based at one of our beaches. It is called Marenga Beach. We have a gender desk there that is very active to receive, to link, and also to refer cases of gender-based violence. We've also been doing a lot of awareness creation within the community, like going around in, like we call them road shows, going around in a vehicle and talking to the community on the importance of prevention of violence against women and girls, and also not keeping away from the COVID-19 directives. We have to also talk to them because this is a crisis and it will come and go, but we will live with the effects that come with the crisis. So we've been on the ground. Also, as a county, we are in the process of developing a county-specific gender-based SCBV policy, sexual and gender-based violence policy, that in times of such crisis, we will be able to have a component of the girls and women in times of crisis, and we will be able to manage them better. Instead of during such activities as they happen, there might be no much rules of how they are put in the camps, but we think that in the policy maybe we can have a component of how to handle women and girls during such crisis.
Indeed. The beaches, and I'm imagining now that we have all these floods, the issue of saying that you have an office at a beach is no longer practical.
It's not really an office. It's a tent that is based at the beach.
Is it operational now?
Yeah, it is very operational because the beaches are still operational. People are still doing business, although it's not at the height that it is on a normal day when there's no crisis. But they are still operational. And also because many people are not willing to also travel because of the stay-at-home
orders
directive. We have a number that they can reach us along the beaches, and in case we have such a case, they report, and we are there to go for the victim, or maybe to go and make an intervention as a community.
Okay. Winning Katha, gender officer with DSW, which is the German Foundation for World Population. We thank you very much for speaking to us.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so
much. And all the best with all your activities in Budalangi and the area.
Thank you so much too.
We'll try and reach out to local leadership, including the County Commissioner for Busia, to hear what the government is doing to address the plight of the people in Budalangi. Social media is showing us clips of rivers that emanate from the Aberdares all the way, that flow into Tana River. And then the Tana River is swollen. The Seven Forks dams all full. So now the Seven Forks dams are spilling off excess water. It's all going down Tana River. This is serious. Triple calamity for people of Tana River. There is floods. There's COVID-19. And our good friends, the locusts, homegrown now. Those three. And now you're talking about addressing this as, the government has its work cut out clearly.
Definitely.
And how it addresses this is also very important. That feedback that we had from the people of Budalangi, and also you've seen even the same kind of feedback coming from the people of Tana River. Every time we have these problems, the government comes and abandons us, orders us to move out, we move, and then the government forgets, like, it was supposed to help us. The government's job was just to police, tokeni hapa, go. And after that, any kind of support to bring them back to their feet is not offered. And this is a crucial issue that needs to be addressed as well.
I don't know what. I think an attitude change or an attitude shift is absolutely necessary here, because it can't be over and over again that the same thing plays out and that we'll have relief food for a couple of weeks and then after that it's done. Because yes, the water levels will drop, right? There will be a balance once again. Nature would have raged for a couple of weeks, but it will go down. And unfortunately, as it goes down, it goes with the responsibility that people should have taken on to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Unfortunately, that too is washed away.
Relief food distribution ends when the waters recede.
Yes.
And then you forget that during those floods, people had not grown any crop.
Right.
They don't have any food in their reserves. So you need to continue supporting them for a long time. Is that taken into consideration? No. In terms of now coming to reconstruct and rebuild their own lives, moving back to their homes, reconstructing their houses, what kind of support do they get? You wait for NGOs like the Red Cross to come round, and it's the one that's doing this job. Why is it that we're seeing the Red Cross doing this job? Why is the government? The government's job should be the one that's talking to us and telling us the people who are affected in West Pokot during last year's landslide, they needed to be relocated. They needed to be brought back home. This is what we as the government are doing. Now we're only seeing Red Cross.
I think what the government here does is provide a platform for the multi-agency groups to come and work together, to coordinate, create a conducive environment and give their blessings.
And let the guys who
can actually do the job. Because in my own opinion,
the guys who can do the job is fine, but also these people are mobilizing funds. The government has funds. What is the government doing with its own resources? The resource that we raise as a country. Those people that are being assisted by other donor agencies and donor communities are taxpayers.
They're Kenyans, just like you and I.
Yes.
I think that has always been the elephant in the room. But if you look at it, this is an emergency situation. It needs prompt action. If you let the government, this Kenyan government or the Kenyan government do something or give a solution and actually implement the solution, we see how it goes. We're seeing it with the COVID-19 response, where it is actually an emergency situation. From the word go, since the moment we started hearing the stories from China, everyone was high alert. Even when we were preparing to, we were preparing, it was a matter of when COVID will hit. It was not even if. We're still dilly-dallying and taking our own sweet time. Then we even announced the cases and we're seeing how it goes. So in such a situation as of flooding, where people literally do not have houses. Landslides have swept away houses and everything, including all the livestock that somebody has. If you wait for the government, how long will these people be living under tents? How long will they be living out in the cold with no food, no shelter, nothing? In my opinion, I'm happy that we have these non-governmental organizations, the Red Cross, the UN agencies that have come in to help those people, because at that time they need immediate help. Now government needs to tell us where our taxpayers' money is, because that is now what should be responding in Tana River. We're seeing the pictures in Tana River. It's not encouraging. And then this is the situation now where you need people to be in safety. After that, there's the aftermath. People haven't been growing any food. People's houses and livelihoods have gone. What is the plan for them after that?
Let's speak to the Busia County Commissioner, Mr. Joseph Nyeri, who is joining us on the line. Good morning, Bwana County Commissioner.
Morning, John. How are you?
Salama kabisa. Thank you very much for speaking to us. This is a situation room. In the room, my name is Eric Latif. We have Ndu Oko and Dr. Mercy Korir.
Good morning, Bwana Commissioner.
Good morning.
Morning. Yeah, morning too.
Now, we've been speaking to the community in Budalangi today, and we have also been seeing footage, photos, and hearing the cries of the people in what's happening on the ground. The rivers have swollen. The lake has also decided to start moving back and reclaiming a lot of its land, and people have been affected. What is the national government, through your office, doing on the ground to assist the people?
One, the rake has been having this throwback phenomena since October, November last year. Yes, it has displaced a number of people. The national government has been giving relief food, rice, maize, beans, cooking oil, and Nutropop, which is a supplementary food diet for the under 5.
Mm-hmm.
We've also given, at some instances, sanitary towels.
Mm-hmm.
We have also facilitated in the logistics to evict the flood-affected families. For the last 2 weeks or so, we've also availed boats from the Coast Guard, Marine Police, to evict people from the vastly flooded areas. These are 6 locations affecting about 35,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
We have also been working with the county government to distribute water dispensers for the hand washing, soap, and again availing public health officers and medics to visit them and assess the situation on a regular basis. Yeah.
Do you have the exact number of the people that you are supporting?
Roughly 35,000.
So all the 35,000 have so far received the food rations, for instance?
There are those we have supported in terms of movement to school camps, those that have moved to relatives, and getting people to their homestays can be tricky. Those at the camps have received varying quantities of relief food, maize flour, rice, and all this. But we are looking at upscaling the quantity. The numbers have kept on growing as people marooned in what they considered safe areas keep coming out as flood waters rise. We are upscaling, and this week we expect to get a much bigger consignment to cover everyone and give them something to sustain them a bit longer.
Has the support so far been formulaic, like in terms of looking at a family size and knowing how much you want to give them? Or is it a blanket X kilograms per person?
Well, in this kind of a crisis, you are evicting, you are evacuating people, you are locating them schools, you are assigning them classrooms, you are looking for donations. We have not done that assessment with precision, but we'll be beginning from today working with our partners like the Red Cross so that we know the actual house size that we're dealing with. But we've taken an average of the family size of 6 based on our census population and the figures. That's what we are working with on average, and they have received food. But with proper targeting, we'll be looking at the exact numbers, and food ratio will be issued according to that kind of an assessment.
Commissioner, how long is this going to go on in terms of the relief efforts for food and other things like you've just mentioned?
We are in consultation as a government, and we look at, the area is flooded and waters may not dry up for the next 4 months. These people will be in camps, relocating to other areas where they can seek livelihood. We'll do that, and thereafter, even when they get to their homes, the places they call homes, they will need to start their life again. Rebuilding their houses. A number of these are mud houses, and up to roof level, knee level, window level, those mud walls have collapsed. The churches, the health facilities, and other institutions have been affected. There's no crop that will grow and mature for another 3 months. So we are looking at support to these communities for a period of about 8 months to 9 months. And we want to be realistic.
Okay.
Yes.
We look at this being a perennial issue. It happens every year in terms of this flooding. What in your mind is something that needs to be done for a permanent solution to this, so that either one, we don't see the levels of destruction, we don't see destruction to the levels at which we see it, and number 2, that we can live with nature coexisting and lives don't get destroyed?
Thank you for that question. There are 2 phenomena affecting Budalangi at the moment. There is the Lake Victoria throwback water, which has submerged a number of villages along the shores of Lake Victoria, in Busia, in Siaya, Homa Bay, the counties bordering the lakes. We may not do much about the lake waters because they are flowing back and they have reclaimed places they may have the waters may have occupied many years ago. But for the River Nzoia, River Yara floods, the government is considering building more raised dikes. The floods this year were much higher to mitigate. It was a mitigation to mitigate the flood waters we have seen. They are more higher than we have had in the past, overtopping the dikes. The dikes will be overtopped, the ones that are existing, and more dikes will be constructed. We have a contractor on site, but we've been having challenge with the same community. We are seeking to help in Siaya and Busia in land acquisition. There are some with inheritance issues and others, so that a canal would be constructed and dikes built, and the government and through NLC has funds to the tune of 5 billion availed for that undertaking, but the contractor is behind schedule by 24 months. We would seek cooperation with the community as we look at permanent or more effective measures.
It sounds like the issue of land acquisition is a thorny issue there, but also you can understand where it's coming from. You're saying, it's about families and families not having agreement on how they want to deal with the subdivision of their land, and therefore how much each person gets. What's the government been doing to support them in terms of even bringing them together and having some conflict resolution?
We have tried ADR mechanisms, bringing in experts to talk to them, to come to a compromise situation, receive the money, apportion it equitably amongst themselves, agree on who the administrator, in some cases where there are succession matters, who the administrator of the estate executors are, so that they get paid. Through our chiefs, we have had sittings with the families. But even as we talk, some have not been very agreeable to move even from there, even in the week of these floods. Like they have not agreed to receive the money. So this is causing a delay in the implementation of that project, lagging behind by 24 months now. And if we don't do that, it doesn't only affect these families, it affects the 6 locations in Bunyara sub-county and others in Siaya.
But Commissioner, do you think more effort needs to be put by the government to address these issues? Because that dispute resolution will have to happen for the development of these dikes. But 24 months delay is a very long time.
Well, a lot of effort will be put, this is certain, but we also wish that the community sees sense in this development program as their own. It's a win-win situation for everyone if the project is implemented. If it is not implemented, at the end of the day, it will be a loss for many, not just the few people that are against setting up the related issues.
Okay. In some cases, we may be stuck between a rock and a hard place where people in areas that have not been affected are being asked to move, which makes sense. However, the questions that have then arisen is, where do we expect them to go? How would you be able to deal with this when you're saying move? Where should they go?
Let me, first of all, shed light on those areas perceived not to be affected. You will find it's a big lake of flood water surrounding a small tiny village. One, they don't have clean drinking water. They are using chlorine to try to clean up the flood water, the murky brown rookie water. Then their toilets are filling up with the flood water. They cannot get their supplies. If we want to get relief support to them, it is a bit costly. If our partners also want to get there, they can't reach them with ease. And also for health facilities, you are marooned there in your own house, minus the social support amenities. It is therefore imprudent to say, I'm safe, my small village is not marooned. Some other category of people have moved to the top of a dike. We have seen these floods over top and breach some of the dikes. And they think they are safe on top of the dike in small taprin, porridge and pepper built chucks.
Yeah.
And now, if the water levels rise again, they will overtop these dikes, and people could perish in the night. It will be a story of Serikal Saidia.
Yes.
It might be too late. We have Bunyara North location. We have institutions, the schools are closed. We have the neighboring Samia sub-county. The institutions are closed. We would have preferred a situation. They move to the raised ground and where they can get the support.
Yes.
I was at one of the dike camps, and they're saying, we are now seeing the kids are beginning to have malaria. The mosquitoes are fat,
Yep.
they are big,
Yeah.
they are biting hard. To get to treat people there on those safe, considered and unflooded small villages, it can be tricky. We could lose life, and one of the cardinal duties of the government is to save lives. Others are telling us, yes, it is flooded there and here, but I have my cows. I cannot move my cows.
Yeah.
That is my wealth. If I lose my cows, how will I replace them?
Yeah.
I have my furniture. You see, like these seats of mine here, my table there, my cupboard there. If I lose these things, I'm not able to evacuate with them. Then how will I acquire other earthly possessions of earth and nature? We've tried to assuage them that their lives are more
Your
important.
life is more important.
Item. And again, we went there 2 days before the floods, based on the meteorological department advice, and the subsequent day, and talked to those villages based on the historical pattern of the flood.
What you're saying,
So
Bwana County
that
Commissioner,
is there.
what you're saying makes a lot of sense. You know, in terms of people needing to, the need to move is paramount, and it's clear, it's important. However, I'd like to ask you, is there, for example, today a school that you can say the government has moved into this particular school and it has set up a camp, which is clear, these are the people that we can accommodate in this school, this is where cooking is going to take place, these are the toilets, the extra toilets that we are going to put up in this particular place, so that you can go to a community and tell them, we have a place that is ready for you to move. Instead of just telling them there's a school somewhere, you know that school called XYZ, you can move there. But that school has not been primed to accommodate people at this time with the current needs that they have.
Let me use the same example. We tell them there's school XYZ.
Yep.
That school is in existence with a roof, with doors, with power connection, and pit trains existing. We are at the stage of disaster response. Our mitigation measures having kind of succumbed to the disaster we have.
Yep.
We are at response stage. We will get them to this school, issue them with food, and each family takes care of its needs based on the food given. You may not be able to cook up communally. We already have 60 schools plus one of the campuses there, Masinde Muriro campus there, where we are housing these people. It's a practical example that is there. And those that have moved to these institutions far outweigh the few that are skeptical about this kind of an approach. But we are also doing an assessment of what needs to be brought in, like taprin to decongest the camps. Over and above the water sanitizer, the soap and whatever that has been issued, we are looking at issuing each of these people in the camps with a mask, because we are also in the thick of COVID, to avoid these scenarios of congestion in those camps on the dike and at the school. But getting support to these people as the water levels rise, decrease, and other hazards in the water come up, it can be more hard for those that have not moved.
And I completely understand when you say that, you know, we are responding to a disaster that's unfolding on a daily basis. But I want to still put you on the spot here, because there are schools that are available. They have power, they have classrooms. Maybe some of them have dormitories, others do not have dormitories. But the response that you're hearing from the people is, I've got my belongings. If I'm going to share a classroom with 70 other families, so where am I going to put my seats? Where am I going to put my livestock? Is there a plan for that? And saying, this is a school, we have set aside this area for livestock. If you've got cows, come and put them in this particular pen. We shall organize for how you feed your cows, or how you milk your cows. We shall organize for your chicken. Is there such an elaborate plan, as opposed to just saying, move people into this school and let them go and sort themselves out on a daily basis?
We are not moving them and telling them to sort themselves out on a daily basis. We are moving them there and helping them to settle down. That is a report I have. We have assigned each of our chief or assistant chief 2-3 schools to assess, report, review, liaise with our partners that may bring in donations. For the cows, it would be a bit tricky moving cows in boats at this point in time as you evacuate people. The window of opportunity we had was before the levels of water rose to the levels that they are now, driving the animals on the water levels that were low. Others have struggled to drive the animals out of the place, and they only collapse on reaching the camp or reaching the dry land. It's a bit hazardous trying to evacuate these cows at this point. We've also come up with suggestions. Why don't we evacuate the women and the children, the most vulnerable, the youth who feel energetic, and who can possibly look at these animals on the remaining few patches, take care of these property. When we get them with there needs to be a compromise in times of disaster. And of course, we can't operate from a comfort zone. People in one classroom have agreed. We shall cook from the veranda. We shall spend this way. We shall use one furniture. The rest of us have our furniture saved somewhere. Because if, like, I come with my 3 set of sofa set, 1 set of sofa set, or some seats and stools, the place might also get crowded. How are we involving the community? There is a chairman, a vice chair, helping liaise with the community so that they come there with their in-house rules, how to live as a community. We are doing it through a very participatory way. But I want to say, not everyone finds that a workable solution for them. But we are saying, we need to move with everyone. But when this cannot be attained, we move with those that are already buying the idea as we try to persuade, we try to beseech, and we try to beg the rest to see sense in what we are saying. As we also see sense in what makes sense in what they are saying.
Bwana Commissioner, you have a very good idea of what the problem is. What budget are you working with? What are the funds you are working with? And what are the sources in order to help all these people? Because all of these issues that you've raised, people need masks, people need to be evacuated and moved elsewhere. You need to, put up something, feed people. What is the budget you are working with, and what is the source of this funding?
From where I sit, we are applying government funds, which are public funds, to deal with the situation. If it is the relief food, this is centrally acquired, procured in Nairobi and distributed. Rice, maize, cooking oil, stuff like that for national government. I wouldn't say rice has costed this much, but for our funding level, we are using the current funds allocated to us. Not to say this detailed for the flood situation. As a county, we have a disaster committee. We are looking at what to do. In next time, you can't say you'll be able to budget knowing the lengthy process that takes when budgeting for public funds. You are able to deal with the situation based on the resources at hand. But moving forward, there will be a budget up to the reconstruction and rehabilitation. At my level, I'll input to this, but of course escalate the rest and share the rest with the county government so that we get it done well and right.
So what are the resources? How much are you looking at? As in, what do you need in terms of resources for you to say, now we think we can do this 75%, if not 100?
Of course, in terms of money, I don't think I'll be possibly able to answer this question. It's not one of those that I thought I would take. But what we need to help this community, for anyone willing to help our flood-affected persons, it would include face masks and also the cloth face mask, because they can be washed and reused, not the surgical masks, which are our one use. There is the need for mosquito nets. There is the need for tarpaulins to decongest the classrooms. Of course, there would be need for soap. There would be need for the specific items to take care of our women clients there, the girl clients. I'm gender sensitive. We would also need people who are capable to offer some psychosocial support, because people are feeling they have lost what they have built over the years. Some have lost mansions, cows, and all this. We need to have people who can help them move through this kind of trying period. Yes.
Joseph Kanyere, the Busia County Commissioner, thank you very much for speaking to us today.
Thank you.
And we wish you all the best as you coordinate the efforts of saving lives and saving livelihoods of the people who've been affected.
Thank you so much for your time and the air allocation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Pass our regards to your officers on the ground.
We'll do so. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.